It's the Final Word Daily. I'm Daniel Norcross. That's Ben Jones, and this programme is brought to you by New Brew, the supplement for brain health and performance. It's the first day of the supposedly iconic Lord's Test match, and you can see the supposedly iconic Sherry Blair's mouth come spaceship come media centre behind Ben Jones. And we are going to discuss a day which had almost everything except massive excitement. And to sum that up in 30 seconds, I'm going to ask you to go for it, Ben. Far away.
It was a day of unexpected cricket, of unexpected action. England won the toss and they didn't bowl, as they tend to. They had a bat and they batted quite cautiously, as they don't tend to. It was all rather unexpected on a very turgid Lord's surface. It's slow. We talked about wanting pace and bounce. They got none of it. England's openers both dismissed by Nitish Kumar Reddy in a slightly comical fashion, and then they threatened to fall apart, but Joe Root, as he tends to, strolled his way to 99 not out. He's one short of a landmark as we go into the end of the day. Ben Stokes is with him. I don't think he's got a groin with him anymore. It's a strange day, Daniel. I'll be honest, I feel quite weird about it.
Well, yes, I'm glad you do, because I watched all of it from the privacy of my sitting room, and I felt that too. And do you know, the question that was bubbling up inside my brain is one that is formed because we spend too much time around journalists. I mean, one might argue that we are journalists. I think we possibly are, in a way. And as a result, the question was, did England modify Bazball? Was that the Bazball with brains we've been hearing so much about? Or did the Lord's pitch defeat Bazball? Because from where I was watching, I didn't see any discernible change in England's batting approach, but I saw massive frustration with the fact that most of the balls, and I say most because some did do stuff, some did fizz and some did pop, and they did like a bit like in the World Test Championship actually. But the prevailing direction of travel felt like someone was bowling a ball into a blancmange, and the harder they bowled it into that blancmange, the more difficult it was to time it and put it away.
I think that I hate to give a nuanced answer, but I think that's what I'm going to have to do. I think there definitely was a restraint in England today. I think that it was their lowest, second lowest attacking shot percentage after 40 overs in the Bazball era. Um, but it wasn't complete restraint. It wasn't blocking. They were just, hitting the bad balls. But I think what you're getting towards the idea that this pitch was basically just deeply unsuited for attacking cricket is completely right. We saw Zach Frawley this morning play one of the most frenetic innings I've seen a Test batter play in my long cricket watching life. He was desperately batting incredibly out of his crease. Then he was going really deep in his crease. Then he was trying to bat on off stump. Then he was batting on middle. He was batting outside off stump. He was trying every single thing, every iteration of his game in order to try and counter a sluggish, slow pitch where there was a lot of swing. That was the issue. It was the combination of the two. Significant lateral movement, but nothing in the pitch in terms of zip. So you're kind of second guessing yourself. Everyone got out of shape. Ben Duckett didn't even look fluent, and he always does. It was a really, really peculiar challenge for England to be met with at a time when I think after Edgbaston, after failing to block out on day 5, there was always going to be a lot of scrutiny on their approach. And I actually think today was a bad day to scrutinise this approach in general, because if they'd have wanted to have played normal Bazball cricket, they wouldn't have. They wouldn't have been able to. So it's kind of a moot point. The point is moot.
Yeah, I mean, yes, I think we might be violently agreeing with each other because they
Oh no.
asked for these. Well, they asked for these fast, bouncy pitches. They didn't get them, and they didn't quite know what to do with them. But they also didn't want to get out. They did at least show a commendable, for the most part, a commendable conviction to playing cricket by batting rather than playing cricket by entertaining and getting out, which I thought was something that was worthy of note. We should start, though, really at the very beginning, even though we have already started for 4.5 minutes, with Ben Stokes' decision to bat at the toss. And I've got to say that my view of it was that he was spooked. I thought that he might do it, in that I thought that actually it was so salutary, the loss at Edgbaston, and they were so surprised that the pitch did do something rather than nothing. I mean, it didn't really massively degrade. We talked about this the other day, but it did do something. There was a crack. There were some puffs of dust. and it was a little trickier to bat on. And it was a beautiful sunny day when they arrived. The only problem is at Lords, they say look up, not down. If you look up for 5 days, it'll be a perfect day to bat. So the question then becomes, do you want to bat later on in the game or earlier on in the game? And normally Stokes says, I want to bat later on in the game. The fact that he said, I want to bat earlier on in the game suggested to me that I just saw a little bit of, not uncertainty, but he runs the danger and he repeats everything and he wants everyone to know that he was right all along. This time he almost was conceding something, which is something that Ben Stokes doesn't do.
I think it was. I genuinely think an argument that they were tweaking, they were adapting. It is a very pronounced element of their game. They bowl first. To move away from that is a significant change to their approach. There's no getting away from that. However, I think it would be a more interesting one if it was perverse, if it was counterintuitive. Whereas actually, looking at the conditions here, it was the right move, I think, to bat first, especially given the way that Ravindra Jadeja and Washington Sundar both turned the ball quite appreciably today, admittedly from quite slow, and it obviously not out of the rough given it's an opening day pitch, but it was turning. This is going to be a dry pitch. It's going to be baked by day 5 if we get that far. And we talk a lot about we've spoken a lot about Shoaib Bashir being a little bit hard done by because he's constantly having to bowl on day 1. Well, this is a perfect example of where if England play their game properly, they do bat the overs, they do put a serious score on the board, Bashir is going to have a day 4, day 5 pitch to get stuck into, and what we learn from that could be quite significant. I think just to kind of touch quickly on the new ball face as well, it really, really was swinging, and like Nitish Kumar Reddy taking the wickets that he did, just missing Ben Duckett slightly unluckily, sort of strangled down the leg side, but also getting Zach Crawley with an absolute ripper that's kind of angled in, swung away, pitched, nibbled, taken the outside edge. I think Crawley's probably made it look a little bit better than it was. But him doing that, I think, is quite a it could maybe have backfired on England. You could have said, "Oh God, look, it's swinging around corners." I don't think you could have really expected that. And also, at the pace that Nitish Kumar Reddy is bowling, he generally gets quite a lot of swing out of the hand. And the fact that he landed one on a perfect spot on a Glenn McGrath line and length, and took Crawley's outside edge, I don't think you can really be accounting for that. So yeah, just openers going cheaply, I don't think comes into the equation of were England right to bat first.
No, yeah. Look, time's going to tell, isn't it? The thing is, there are a lot of characteristics of this pitch that are very reminiscent of the World Test Championship final, in that there's that thing where the ball goes down low to the keeper's ankles and then actually flies through to around about waist to chest height. And it's hard. I mean, with the ball tracking data, I guess you can pinpoint where it's happening, but they feel like similar lengths. There was a very instructive ball, I thought. The umpire's call to Ben Stokes, was that Reddy again coming round the wicket? And Stokes advanced. Stokes advanced on the ball. He was a good distance down. Yes, he'd moved across the stumps, but what I'm interested in is the height of that ball. It was umpire's call, not for height. It was umpire's call for hitting leg stump. But he was going to hit that leg stump about 3 inches below the top. So it is slow and turgid. And that is what happened to the World Test Championship final pitch. And we also saw there that it was almost impossible to imagine taking a wicket by the 4th day. Josh Hazlewood batted for an hour and a half on that deck, and they were against Kagiso Rabada, for heaven's sake, and Marco Jansen. So you do wonder how any wicket's going to be taken unless there's actual deterioration. And I guess the signs of spin, and what you're saying is 5 days of 30-degree plus heat, then England are going to be challenged because they've got a 21-year-old spinner who's got to do all the damage with a little bit of Joe Root and hoping there's some up and down for Jofra Archer. Let's get back to the narrative of the day, though. So after those couple of wickets fell, Ollie Pope came in and was dropped first ball. A very hard chance. Very, very, very hard chance. But Ollie Pope basically went through a process of about 5 minutes of looking like he'd never played cricket before, and then about 3/4 of an hour of battling, and then about an hour of actually really looking like a test player who knew what it was that he needed to do. I thought it was a terrific knock, which, of course, would end in slightly incredible fashion by getting out the first ball after tea when Ravindra Jadeja comes on, turns it a bit, and a brilliant catch. I'm not sure Rishabh Pant would have taken that. Dhruv Jurel is quite the customer behind the stumps. He is a hell of a keeper. That took a massive deflection. He took it easy as you like and walked off, sort of face palming for about 10 seconds before they could get him off the pitch. That was a rather fun passage. We had 70 runs in that afternoon session. Being there, did you sense the kind of intensity of the battle? Because India didn't let up. Their bowling felt like it was accurate. It felt like they were still extracting movement, albeit slow movement. And it felt like a really kind of tough passage of play.
It felt like a really, really key moment in the series, I'd say, because it felt like everyone knew that this was a pitch where it was going to be hard to score runs quickly, but it was probably going to be quite easy to score runs. And actually, as a result, putting on a big total is really significant. Now, obviously, with England's number 3 and 4 at the crease, this was where the bulk of the run scoring was going to have to be done. And there was that period after lunch where there was barely a run scored for about half an hour, as you say. Pope and Root were kind of alternating taking the bowlers. Bumrah bowled 3 balls, I think, to Root in about an hour. He was hiding from him. They were keeping him away. So Pope was actually taking the responsibility of facing the best bowler of all time. And as you say, he did really well. Me and you are both big fans of Ollie Pope. I think we both want him to succeed quite significantly. And I think his false shot percentage today was alarmingly low. It was like 10% for the vast majority of his innings after that really frenetic opening to the knock. But I think it's a knock that I didn't really anticipate Pope playing. It was low heartbeat for a lot of time. It was quite egoless. It was quite chill. And I think alongside Root, they kind of just lowered the temperature of the occasion. So it felt intense in the sense that this is clearly a big pivot point in the game. If these two go cheaply, England are there for the taking. But it didn't feel like, I don't know, if Stokes had been there, he'd have been scratching around and getting in people's faces and trying to start fights. It felt like these two were very politely working their way through the afternoon session. And that's kind of what it felt like. No wickets falling in that afternoon session. It felt like England wanted to get out of there, just get away from it, which is very un-Bazball. They didn't run into the danger. They very much sidled past the danger, hoping it didn't see it. And I think that going forward, we haven't learned a huge amount about Ollie Pope today. It would be nice if he could have taken the opportunity to convert a start into a more opposing score. But it was a really important intervention at a time where I think England were a little bit spooked and didn't really know the tempo they were meant to be batting, didn't really understand the pitch they were batting on. I think he just kind of gave them a platform, and Root has been the one that's profited from it more obviously. But it was a really key intervention for Pope.
They were sort of the two batters that Bazball needed if they were not going to lose their heads to be there at the same time. Basically, a Pope who's still fighting for his place. He is. It's just a fact. He's still fighting for his place. And a Joe Root who will do things for Bazball, but has also played so much Test cricket, he's going to also do the right thing at the right moment because he's got a natural instinct for doing that. So, a couple of things. 9 maidens in the first 33 overs, extraordinary. A whole series of left alone deliveries by Ben Duckett. This is what I'm trying to explain to you kids. This was crazy. The slowest 50 in a first innings, the slowest 100 in a first innings under Bazball, the lowest score after 60 overs. I think the lowest score after 80 overs. So I'm pretty much sure it's the lowest score after 83 overs in a Bazball innings. It was that kind of a crazy mad day. Ollie Pope gets out very soon after tea. Harry Brook comes in, hits a couple of fours, and is then undone. And this is what is amazing to me about Bumrah, Ben. We know that the Duke's ball doesn't do as much after 30 overs. This was a slightly weirder situation because it kept doing stuff up to 40, 45. But then Bumrah comes on, almost for a speculative spell. He's got to get some overs out of him, 2 or 3 overs. And he bowls an absolute perler to get through Harry Brook, who looked as baffled, frankly, as Ollie Pope did. It cut back. People on the radio and TV were going, has that got inside edge? Has he got an inside edge? We'd look time and time again. Why they wouldn't bloody show Snicko, I don't know, because then we would know. But I don't think it did get an inside edge. And it's hit the top of off stump, beaten his own inside edge from... He didn't bowl particularly wide of the crease. It's jagged. And how he's got that ball to jag, I don't know. But that's the point. On this surface, stuff is happening. It's like, this is a hard pitch to bat on, and there can be a good bowler's got a ball with your name on it, hasn't it? You saw it with Akash constantly trying the inducker, constantly trying to get it to jag back. That is a very dangerous ball here.
Well, we saw it. We saw it at Edgbaston as well. That's 3 times now that Brook's been undone by that that ball coming back into him. I feel like I'm hesitated to say it's a technical flaw because he's got a technical flaw against induckers hitting the top of off stump. Like
that are
no
very
shit.
good and move a mile. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, yeah. It's like I've got a fatal allergy to a bullet through the brain. No, I think it's more. I think you're more likely to see dismissals of that type only more as the game goes on because there is a lot of swing. I don't know whether it's the conditions or whatever, but there does seem to be movement through the air, less so off the pitch. And yeah, that does open up a different avenue of for the bowlers to attack. I thought Bumrah bowled really nicely today. He didn't get the returns he deserved. He bowled pretty well with the new ball, and could easily have had a couple. And I think that the looming presence of this being India's best attack is really clear now. It really is their three best seamers plus Jadeja plus Washington as a slight variation. It's a really nicely balanced attack, and I'm looking forward to see how it gets on over the next few days.
Somehow England survived that, and despite being 172 for 4, managed to fashion a partnership of 79 and injured Ben Stokes. I imagine it's an injury that means that he won't bowl. It's absolutely fatal for England's balance of their side. It's one of the most significant things that have happened in the series, and we've not touched on it yet because I hate speculating on injuries until we actually know what happens. Everybody just does that. Ben, if you want to, and if you know anything, please let us know if we know anything. Until we know anything, suffice to say, Ben Stokes had some treatment for what looked like it could have been a tweaked groin. You never know. Could might also have been a bit of hamstring. I have no idea because we haven't had a medical report. After which, he couldn't run quickly between the wickets, and as a result, Root couldn't get to his 100.
Yeah, essentially, that was the short-term implication. Was that it's going to take Root a couple of minutes tomorrow morning to get his turn, rather than getting it in front of a very patient Lord's crowd this evening. They probably earned the right to see Root raise the bat, but no dice. No, I think I'm not going to speculate either. I'm not a journalist. I don't know anything. But Stokes did look in severe discomfort and wasn't moving well. And India did a couple of nice things trying to force him to move. There was when Jadeja was trying to incite them to come back for two for Root's 100, and he just kind of threw the ball on the floor, being like, "Oh, I've put it down. Maybe you could take a second." And then I, the best fielder in the world, will pick it up and ping it over the stumps, thus dismissing you. That was quite fun. I think.
Was it though? Was it? Was it? Was
Oh,
it?
I think it
I
was,
thought that was the sort of thing that would get the Wimbledon centre court crowd laughing so much that 20 of them would have to be hospitalised. But we're better
That's
than
damning.
that. It was whimsy and it was twee.
I mean, I've been blindsided there. I thought that was banging your wheelhouse, but no, I thought I chuckled.
Who do you think I am? Pam Ayres? For God's sake. No, I hate that kind of thing. You know, this is like Joe Root looked at it going, what's he doing? What's he doing? Because he's in the zone, like trying to play cricket hard.
Oh yeah,
And he realised what he was
Root had
doing.
absolutely nothing of
And he
it.
went,
Yeah.
oh, okay, you're trying to be, oh, right. And then, and then all the crowd will go, ha, 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 ha. And then we'll all be like we're at bloody Wimbledon.
Which is obviously deeply, deeply unsettling. Yeah, I mean there were two injuries today, weren't there? There was also the injury to Rishabh Pant. I'm not sure if you mentioned it earlier, but yeah,
No, I didn't.
He got one on the end of the finger and he's bust a nail apparently. So it's very, very painful. And as a result, had to be replaced by Drew Jarrell behind the stumps with the gauntlets, as we say. I love using the word gauntlets. But I think, by all accounts, he's going to be able to take painkillers and bat. He just can't keep wicket. It's funny, they're actually nicely blessed. They've got KL Rahul who could also keep wicket if they need him to. So they're not too worried in that sense, but obviously he's been so exhilarating with the bat. They'll be hoping that it doesn't impair him at all, even slightly, because he has been a real difference maker across the series. The Stokes one is far more concerning because if he can't bowl, then England have got a bowling attack made up of procs and pensioners for the next week and the next month, and that, in my opinion, is not good.
And a number 6 who can't run between the wickets. So who knows? Look,
Correct.
Watch this space. It's almost time for the Hall of Fame, and the Hall of Fame has got so many contenders today. I'm going to try to make it not last forever, but I can think of quite a few. But before we get there, just a reminder that this show is brought to you by New Brew. It's a supplement that supports brain health and performance, contains a range of ingredients called nootropics, the primary purpose of which is to increase sharpness, concentration, and memory. There are other formulations for different needs, like relaxation, one of my favourites, or competition. Definitely not one of my favourites. Your brain, but that might be Ben's. He's a competitive man. Your brain is the most important asset you have. It really is. So it's good to help it along. Taking lots of pills is no fun. So this is a single drink that does the job. And the guys at New Brew, they don't use any plastic packaging. They mix it in a glass from biodegradable material. And better than resveratrol is what I want to talk about today, because it's all about, and this is why I've been asked to talk about this, it's about healthy aging. Yes, yes, I know, slightly ageist, but I'm prepared to completely embrace that. Resveratrol is packed with antioxidant support, love antioxidant, that helps you stay energized and resilient as the years go on. Resveratrol is a substance found in the skins of grapes. We all know about grapes. They are so good for you. And in certain other plants, fruits and seeds. It's made by various plants to help defend against invading fungi, stress, injury, infection, and too much sunlight. And if that isn't basically describing my life, I don't know what is. I will be going to newbrew.com/final word. That's NOOBRU.com/final word and getting my 15% off. The discount will be applied automatically at checkout, and I recommend it to you all. But look, it's Hall of Fame time. We're going to take a break, and then we'll be right back with it. It's the Hall of Fame. On a day where there were many extraordinary things. There was obviously Ben Stokes electing to bat, for example. There were all sorts of injuries. There were all sorts of attempts to get balls through hoops. There's one that's really obvious near the end, but I don't know which one Ben's going to go for. Where are you going to go, Ben?
I'm taking the obvious one. I like the low-hanging fruit. There was a period late in the day when play was interrupted for about 10 minutes by a swarm of initially unidentified flying beasts that were misdiagnosed as being flying ants. We then discovered that they were in fact ladybirds. They were taking a particular interest in Jasprit Bumrah. Ben Stokes was refusing to face a ball because he didn't want to be distracted. Bumrah at one stage swallowed about five, I think. It was all very comical. The umpires didn't really know what to do, and Nasser Hussain had to utter the immortal words, "I don't know what the laws say about ants," which I really enjoyed. I would also say a shout out to friend and colleague at Sky, Will Marshall, who looks after our graphics. He made the astute observation that finally the MCC are letting ladybirds in the pavilion, which I thought was a lovely bit of business from him. It was all very silly,
That's
and
gorgeous.
cricket is at its best in moments of high to medium level farce, and that was very much this evening.
I agree with almost everything you've said there. I'm afraid I've got to do it again, though. I listened to NASA, and I love NASA, and I listened to NASA saying there's nothing in the law about ants. But I thought he was being disingenuous there, because there are plenty of things in the laws about and playing conditions about what umpires need to do in the event of there being breaks in play caused by unforeseen circumstances like bees or wasps. So the laws don't need to specify every single animal, and I think he knows that. Otherwise, the laws would be incredibly long. So I think there is something in there about what you need to do, and it is, whilst there are a vast number of distractions to both the fielding side and the batting side, you shouldn't be bowling a ball. Because let's face it, it's no different from Spider Cam continually annoying Joe Root today. It's just that this was ladybirds, actual ladybirds, rather than these strangely like arachnopomorphic camera. Is that a word?
Good effort.
I think it might be.
That was a serious effort. No, Spider Cam is being a pest. Bless it. It needs to. It's. I just think there was an arachnophobic element to the whole discourse. Yeah, it needs to stop ruining Joe Root's life, because we had that wonderful clip a few years ago in the Ashes in Hobart when Stuart Broad just screamed, "Stop moving the robot," which I enjoyed as like a kind of low level reboot of the Terminator franchise. But this was slightly more pedestrian. But yeah, we could do without it being behind the bowler's arm quite so often, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, that was one of my other halls of fame. And in fact, so much of cricket today was Hall of Fame worthy. There were so many weird looks on people's faces when balls did certain things, some that kept low, some that didn't, some that exploded. Dhruv Jurel pulled off an amazing take that's Hall of Fame worthy. And we all heard a noise while watching. And he genuinely thought the route had got an edge to one that on day one had fizzed off a length and gone past Root's chest and had somehow been amazingly taken by Dhruv Jarrell. And at the time it went past, there was this clicking noise. And I thought, actually, I think they might be onto something here. And the ball was shown to be miles away from the bat. So God knows what was going on there. Today had it all, except vast amounts of excitement, as I said right at the beginning. But for me, a man of 56, I don't need vast amounts of excitement. Do you know what I need? I need absorption. I need to be able to just soak myself in the warm bath of tough cricket whilst not having to play it myself.
But unfortunately, I've got my kind of broken ADHD Gen Z brain finds these kind of days normally very difficult to cope with because nothing really happened, and I've been TikTokified to within an inch of my life, and I need to scroll up and see another boundary. I need to see something happen. No, it wasn't that today. Today was calming. However, I've decided that what this actually was incredibly exhilarating because it was performance art from Bazball. So the mere absence of Bazball is in of itself Bazball, because crucially, Bazball can't be defined and it can't be limited to things as simple as runs and wickets. It's a way of living. It's a state of mind. And so yeah, Ollie Pope blocking out Ravindra Jadeja for an hour and a half would have been Bazball as well. It doesn't matter. The discourse takes over.
And you know what? We've managed to string that out for 26 and a half minutes because the more slow and the more absorbing the cricket is, the longer it takes to make sense of it. Thank you, all of you, for listening to the Final Word Daily. It won't be me tomorrow. I'm in Windsor somewhere keeping a watching brief. But I imagine it will be Ben, and there'll be a combination of people. Who knows? You might get to see Cameron Ponsonby again. We all like to see him. But until then, and with a reminder, by the way, that if you would like to check out New Brew, go to newbrew.com/final word to get 15% off those marvellous drinks. The discount will be applied automatically at the checkout. From me, Daniel Norcross, and from the mighty Ben Jones in the backdrop of the Media Centre at Lord's on this beautiful sunny day, it's goodbye.